Good evening once again, Dartmouth sports fans, and welcome to another episode of Big Green Classic. I am Brett Franklin, glad to have you aboard, and today's game is from 2017 from Chase AstroTurf Field in Hanover. It's Dartmouth Big Green Field Hockey taking on the Columbia Lions from from 2017, October 21st, 2017. And we're glad to have you aboard here to talk some Dartmouth field hockey. And we welcome in our guests, and we'll start with the goalie from 2017, class of 2019 from Glen Mills, Pennsylvania. It's Haley Valerio. Haley, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Love talking about Dartmouth field hockey, so I'm excited.
And joining us as well, class of 2021, a midfielder from Cherry Hills, Colorado. It's Taylor Hantman. How are you, Taylor?
Doing well. Excited to be here.
Thank you both so much for joining us, and looking forward to talking about a good game here from 2017. The Lions visiting from New York City, and to kind of set the scene here, Dartmouth coming into this game beating in-state rival UNH the game before, a 4-3 victory in Hanover. Big Green looking to seek some revenge against the Lions, trying to get back at the Columbia Lions for a 6-1 defeat in New York City back in 2016. So this tilt certainly had a lot on the line. And Haley, we'll start with you here. Looking at this 2017 season, talk to us the feeling going into that year, just kind of what, the feeling was as going into camp, and just kind of the overall feeling into that 2017 season.
Yeah, it was really exciting. We had kind of an iffy year the year before. We didn't do as well as we had hoped, and I think this year we were excited to, we've been working really hard in the summer, and I think we really gelled as a team, and yeah, we were just excited to, leave it all out there.
Oh, here's scoring almost goal there.
Right off the bat, seeing a lot of action. And Taylor, same question to you. Just kind of what do you remember going into that 2017 season?
Oh, man. Well, so that was my freshman year. So I think more than anything, I was just so excited to be there. I obviously, coming from Colorado, field hockey was not super big there, and so just like having the opportunity to play on water turf was such a cool experience. And then I basically idolized every single person on the team, so being able to just be on the field was such a cool experience for me.
Haley, looking at that 2017 season and just kind of how you opened it up, you guys started out the season down in Newark, Delaware, and opened up the season against the Blue Hens, and then you took on Longwood the next game before you eventually came back to Hanover and scored a non-conference victory against Ryder at Chase AstroTurf Field. But some good competition to start that season. What do you remember about that first couple of games down there in Delaware?
Yeah, that was a really challenging one. They were the former national champions. I actually grew up right near there, so I was really excited to go down there. I had a lot of friends who were there, and that was a really tough game. It was one of the funnest games we played, and actually, even though the score was pretty high, but as a goalie, it was just a great opportunity to get some experience. And we had a lot of tough games early on, but I think that just made us, want to fight more, especially in the Ivy League games, and having that experience was really beneficial.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, I'll never forget pulling up to the Delaware game. And, we knew that they were the national champions the year before, but I don't think any of us were really expecting this. But we get out onto the field, and all of a sudden there's they probably had 100 fans there, just all lined up, and field hockey doesn't usually get that many fans. And so I just remember, because it was my first game ever, so I was just what is happening? But they had a little ceremony because this was they were putting up the banner of, them becoming national champions from the year before. And so I think it was just a very surreal experience, but definitely just grateful to have been able to play them.
So, Taylor, that being your first game, not only is that your first game, but you're going up, as you said, against the defending national champions. I mean, That's not a bigger welcome to Division I field hockey moment. I don't know what is, right?
Yeah, I just remember running onto the field and just like running around, like it probably looked like running around with my head cut off. Like Haley probably remembers that, but like I just had no idea what I was doing, and yeah, but it was fun.
Yeah, I just remember hearing this crowd of people coming, and they invited all their student athletes to cheer. So it was a surreal moment, but that was really fun.
Yeah.
Even though we didn't win, but it was a really fun experience.
Good, and like you were saying, a good test to start the season, and then you guys rolled back to Hanover and came away with wins against Ryder and Bryant to even up the season at 2-2, Haley. So as much as that was a tough challenge to start the season, a good way to bounce back and 2 solid wins to get back to 500 to start that season.
Yeah, and you go into those games and you think, if we can play against the former national champions, and for the first half of that game, the Delaware game, we did do a good job, and we held them, I think, 2-1, and then they kind of went away with it in the second half. I think we lost I think Mo, the center back, got injured, so that's kind of what happened there. But I think then when coming home, you think, we faced the toughest opponent we'll probably ever face, so when you get into these other games, you just get excited to, see what you can do. And I remember that Ryder game was a really good win, and Bryant as well.
Yeah, the Ryder contest was a 4-3 victory for the Big Green, and then you guys got a big victory over Bryant, winning 7-2. And Taylor, do you kind of agree with that sentiment there? Those tough games really, got you guys, as much as it wasn't the result you wanted, but made you feel like, hey, we can compete with anybody, and you guys got 2 solid wins at home to start that season.
Yeah, for sure. And I also think oftentimes when you're actually playing in the game, the score doesn't necessarily reflect the way you feel about the game. And so I think, just like being able to compete against these top teams definitely gave us a little bit of confidence that we needed going into our next games.
You look at as the season kind of progressed, it was a little bit of a slump for you guys in that season after the Bryant win. Tough losses against Vermont and Maine. Then, of course, number 17, Princeton, always a tough opponent no matter what season goes on. But then, again, another couple of tight games that you guys came out on top, 3-2 win against Fairfield. And then one could argue, the game we're watching, probably the game of the year, but then a big 3-2 double overtime win down at Brown. Haley, that was a big victory, a big road victory for the squad at that point in time.
Yeah, I can't remember if that was the longest game we had ever played in. Was that in 2017?
It was either 2017 or 2018, but that game, I think it was, because if it was double overtime, then it was. We played 2 halves, and then I think we did 1 overtime, and then had 2 rain delays, and then did another overtime, and then did shootout. So it was, I think, 4 hours of field hockey. That was one of the craziest experiences ever. It was the longest game. I think it honestly like holds the record for the longest Division I field hockey game.
Probably.
Because, we had 2 30-minute rain delays, but we hadn't, like, usually if you're 20 minutes into the second half, then usually they'll just, like, call the game. But I think we were, like, 18 minutes into the second half or something. And so we played it out. And we actually had a pretty solid lead against Brown. I'm pretty sure we were up by 2 goals. And then they tied it up in, like, the last few minutes. And so then we went into overtime, then double overtime. So that was a game I will never forget.
Yeah. And the winning in the shootouts was just like, I would rewatch everyone's reactions because everyone had different reactions to it. I remember coaches would like run away or they would like scream. I loved watching the reactions to that win. That was awesome.
Yeah.
I was going to say, after a contest like that, when you finally come away with a win on the road, that had to be quite a feeling, during that moment, Taylor. Again, against Brown and to do it in the fashion that you guys just talked about. That is truly incredible. That's one you remember for quite some time.
Yeah, for sure. That was crazy game. But yeah, Haley, I was just thinking about, we had our second assistant coach. Her name was Maddie, and she has so much energy, and she was like Haley's goalie coach as well. But I remember her just like her reaction of like running back and forth, just like so stressed in that moment, but also so happy when we ended up winning.
So we're coming up here to the first Columbia goal, and I wonder if Haley and Taylor, you can kind of break it down here. It's going to be coming up on a set play, but maybe you can kind of break down here as we get close to the first goal here for the Lions.
Yeah, I think they had been in or in a couple of times. It's always hard when, right off the bat as a goalie, if, they haven't been in and you're just starting to get, used to what's going on, and then clearing it out is always a challenge for any defense.
Yeah, it looks like we had a hard time. We are having a hard time getting the ball out. And Columbia is just really pressing us right now. And yeah, they're connecting really well. It looks like we're a little bit disorganized on defense. A couple of us have had to move away from our marks, and looks like we just gave up a corner. So I think, if I remember correctly, this is when they score.
Yeah, and actually, so their main hitter on corners, name was Maeve. She was really, really good friends with one of our center back, or at the time she was, I think, the right back, Jess Valvano. They were childhood friends. They grew up together in Severna Park, Maryland, and she was lethal on corners. When she graduated this year, we were like, we love you, Maeve, but thank you for not being out there anymore, because that was rough. Yeah, here's her sweep.
Oh, yeah.
And then it was the rebound. Yep.
So yeah. Columbia jumps on the board first here, making it 1-0. And again, it just seemed like you were talking about there, Taylor, a little bit of a scramble, kind of, playing a little bit out of your realm there, and able on a set play there, Columbia able to put it in there. And just, can you talk about, the difference of, the obvious of playing from behind and playing from ahead, but just from like kind of the mental aspect of it, can you kind of talk a little bit about that in the field hockey sense of, playing from behind, and obviously in this one coming away with a nice victory, not to spoil it, but a nice comeback effort. Can you kind of talk about that mental edge, playing from behind, playing ahead?
Yeah, I think one thing that we talk about a lot as a team is the 2 minutes after a goal is scored, whether it's your own team scoring a goal or the other team scoring a goal, and how most goals are scored in that 2 minute period. And so we really try to, on either end, really capitalize on those 2 minutes. And so I think we as a team this season had this mentality where after someone would score, someone would yell like, 2 minutes, guys, 2 minutes, to where you really just mentally focus on those 2 minutes and try to score, but also prevent the other team from scoring. So especially if we had just scored a goal, I think just playing with the mentality that we can slow the game down a little bit and really just like get composure and possess the ball.
Okay, Haley, anything to add to that, being especially from your point of view, being on the backstop?
Yeah, I think, once that first goal is scored, you're kind of playing, you get the mentality, when you're down, just to fight back. And, everyone loves an underdog. And I feel like having the underdog mentality, I feel like that benefited us sometimes. We really, found our fire once, you don't want that to happen. You don't want someone to score first. But I think once someone does, you kind of get the drive to start working hard and getting a score on your end.
Kind of looking at this matchup, I mentioned earlier, Columbia won the previous matchup down in New York City the season before. Taylor, obviously you weren't with the program quite yet, but Haley, do you remember that game and just kind of, how that flow went? And, coming into this game, do you guys sit on those previous matchups, especially if it's lost? How does that work for you guys?
Yeah, I think so. I think if I'm remembering correctly, the year before that was a pretty high scoring game. They had a really good forward who had done some national level stuff, and I think I don't know what happened there. We had a kind of rough showing, and I think with any Ivy League game any year, you kind of go into it knowing it's going to be a battle and anything can happen. So I think this year we were just excited to kind of take back that win, and glad we did.
Taylor, I guess I'll ask you now, playing, I mean, do you ever kind of sit on previous matchups? Like, say if it's Harvard or Prince, do you kind of sit on or is it just, hey, wipe the slate clean, we're on to this game and not worrying about what happened the previous year?
I mean, I think I always have those memories. I think they're kind of hard to get out of your head, especially just like walking onto the field. You kind of have flashbacks about last season. I think everyone kind of knows in your head what happened last season. But with that being said, I really think that, especially in the Ivy League, any team can win on any given day. And it really just depends on like what team shows up and who has like the little edge that's going to help them in that given day. So I think that it's really hard to be thinking about previous years because every year is so different, and also every day is so different because like any team can win on any given day.
Good scoring chance there for the Big Green. Just went a little bit wide to the right there as Columbia leading it 1-0 still here in the first half. I'd like to kind of talk about your guys' journey to Dartmouth, how you committed to this program, and you're venturing out here to Hanover. Haley, can you kind of talk to us about your journey here to Hanover?
Yeah, so I'm from Philly, and I was at the time, it was about my sophomore year, was looking mainly at Pennsylvania schools. It's a big field hockey state, big area for field hockey, and I hadn't even really thought about going super far until my junior year. I actually knew Patty Gillern, who was the assistant coach. She coached at my club, Horizon, and I saw her at a tournament. It was called Super 60. I don't even know if they have it anymore, but I saw her, and I was kind of expanding my horizon. Some of the schools I was looking at around Philly weren't really working out, and I was starting to go further and further. And yeah, I met Patty there, and she said, hey, why don't you come up to Dartmouth? And when I came up for a clinic during the spring, I just absolutely loved the campus. And of course it's the spring, so it's warm, and students were out playing Frisbee, and it seemed like something from a movie set. It was just so beautiful. And meeting the team, I ended up coming for a visit a couple weeks later during my spring break, and just meeting the team, and everyone was just so nice. And I just felt like this was the school where I had to go. It was just, suddenly became my number one choice, and it ended up working out where I committed a couple weeks later. And with goalkeeping, it's actually a very difficult process. Teams may not even be recruiting a goalie one year, or there were schools I was looking at where they just didn't need a goalie my year. So they try and stagger it every other year. So it all panned out with Dartmouth, though. They had some goalies they were looking at, and I remember coming to a clinic with, I think, 50 goalkeepers there and like 20 field players. It was a crazy experience, which to have the goalies outnumber the field players. But yeah, it was just a really fun time. And coming up during my junior spring, yeah, that's how I committed here, and it all worked out.
Taylor, your journey to Hanover and joining the Big Green program.
Yeah, so I started playing field hockey pretty late comparatively to other people. I grew up playing soccer and made the shift to field hockey my freshman year of high school. And so field hockey, like I said earlier, was not super big in Colorado at the time. So we had one club, but primarily we would go to like a few recruiting tournaments, and that's kind of what our exposure was to college field hockey. And I think I just like really fell in love with the sport right when I started playing. And it had always been a dream of mine to be a college athlete. And so I cast my net pretty wide. It was looking at a ton of different schools, wasn't really sure exactly where I wanted to go. And within the Ivies, I was looking at a few of them. And I remember meeting Patty and Fowler for the first time and just like loving how personable they were and how they truly cared about every individual on the team, and just like seeing the team and how much enthusiasm they had, like even on, like especially on the sidelines. I came and watched one of your guys' games, and I just remember like the excitement around every single player and just like encouraging them to do their best. I was like, wow, this is something that I want to be a part of. And then coming up to campus, I also went to a spring clinic, and so the weather was nice, even though I remember being freezing in the moment. But now after coming here, I'm like, oh, that was like a really warm day. But I think once I came here and saw how special of a place Dartmouth was, I was pretty young. I was a sophomore at the time. And I just knew that Dartmouth was a place where I wanted to be. And kind of like Haley, like once you come, you just kind of, it feels like home, which I know sounds so cliche, and but it really does. And yeah, I couldn't have been happier with my decision, because I feel like this is such an incredible school. So yeah.
Couple of nice sprawling saves there from Haley as Columbia putting the pressure on here. By the way, I've been informed, going back to that Brown game, 2 lightning delays, 2 overtimes, 2 rounds of shootouts, 3 hours, 36 minutes total time. So
yes.
just so we have the record straight here, as it's like another set play here for Columbia as they lead it 1-0 here on Big Green Classic. And Taylor, we heard a little bit about your first experience playing your first collegiate game down at Delaware, which is just a wild start to your career. Haley, can you talk to us about your first action playing for the Big Green, what it was like, what you were feeling, everything that came with it?
Yeah, so I think the first game I went in was my freshman year. We were playing, I think it was Brian. It was a team. So with freshman goalies and with goalies in general, they kind of put the younger goalies in if you're beating a team, by a significant amount. They want you to get some experience, kind of like, in football, they put the different strings in. So, and, I don't think I touched the ball, but I was just so nervous. I was like, oh my gosh, can't mess it up. And then the first game I remember playing in was against Princeton my freshman year, which that was definitely a wake-up call to, I think, they had gone up a few goals and we were just having a hard time. Princeton's just ruthless on offense, so they just wanted to kind of change it up and see what would happen if they threw me in there. So, yeah, I think I made a few saves, and I just remember being so nervous and being like, don't panic. But it was just so exciting to get to go in a game like that, and I just wanted to, take whatever opportunity I could. And I played with Paige Duffy, who graduated in 2017, and she was such a good role model, and she was so nice, and I learned so much from her. And I was so fortunate to have Maddie Carpenter, who played at Northwestern, who was an amazing goalkeeper. I saw her play, and I remember watching her, and I watched her play at Northwestern when I was getting recruited, and I thought, wow, she's so good. She was amazing. And then I found out she was going to be my coach and was so excited. That was awesome. I really learned a ton from her and Paige, and that was a great opportunity to have her for 3 years.
She also, Maddie would sometimes jump in during practice, and she would get all suited up. And she's so aggressive, and we were, as a player, we were all like, oh no, Maddie's coming in, like everyone watch out.
Wow, what a practice goalie to have, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to be coming up here to another play of note here as Columbia leading it 1-0 here in the first half. Again, looks like possession a little bit more even here going back into the Columbia end, but the Lions, Taylor, were put on a lot of pressure on this game early on.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think they we it's a very high pressure game, so I think we both had a lot of energy, but I think at the beginning Columbia is able to connect a little bit more than we were. Looks like they're coming into the circle with speed, just hard on transitions because we were all the way up at the other side of the field.
Yeah, and corners for them were definitely one of their strong suits. Like I said earlier with Maeve Doherty, she just had that sweep that would come in, and as a goalie, you can make the first save, but often it's the rebounds to get you, and we'll see how this one plays out. I don't quite remember this one, but I'm sure Maeve is involved somehow.
Yeah. Looks like it was a pretty sunny day. Nice. See what happens here. Yeah, looks like that was honestly just a really pretty tip, and I know this was really hard to save, Haley.
Yeah, that's one of those things you're like, you don't even know what happens until it happens. So, but yeah, that was that sweep. I think that was Maeve who just sweeped that in. So, and we knew that going in. Those are definitely props to the defense on corners because I have all that padding on, but they just have a mask and shin guards and gloves, and I don't know how they do it sometimes just to run out there in front of those shots.
Now, Haley, for someone who is new to watching field hockey and leading up to that corner, can you talk to us, about how you line? Actually, we'll come back to that in a second here because we're actually going to be coming up to the first Dartmouth goal. But my question is, leading up to a corner, what is happening there? Who's communicating? How does that all set up? Do your teammates know where they need to be? I'll come back to that question here in a second. But again, I would love for you guys to break down here this upcoming Dartmouth goal here as Columbia 2-0 here in the first half.
Yeah, it looks like we've gained possession and we sent the ball back, which is helping us, I think, gain a bit of momentum right now. And it looks like we definitely have a sense of control over the game, which I think we haven't seen up until this point.
Yeah.
Yeah, good transfer.
Yeah, I agree. And sometimes you have to go backwards to go forwards in field hockey, and I think that was a great example of using the transfer in the backfield and, taking our time and not rushing into it.
So Carmen just had a beautiful reverse. She's known for those. She just has some incredible reverse hits. So, she definitely helped us win this corner. Yeah, we'll see what corner play we're going to do. I can't remember. Can you remember, Haley?
No.
It's out of the field.
When we see it, I remember, but it's leading up to it, it's exciting. A nice switch there.
Oh, yeah. So this corner is called the Gemma because it was Gemma. So, aw.
That was a great tip from Lenny. Was that Lenny or Biko?
I think it was Lenny.
Yeah.
So Dartmouth gets on the board 2-1. And a nice response there. And I think we were talking about it earlier, how does one respond when you get down early, but good response there after being down 2-0, and quickly the tide turns.
Yeah, I think you just got to have the next play mentality, which has really helped us in this game because after being down 2-0, it doesn't reflect in our play. I think everyone's really putting in all their effort and doing their best to connect on the field. So
before I forget, Haley, let's go back to that original question I had. What breakdown on a corner, and Taylor, we'll love to hear from you as well. What's going on in a corner? What's the communication like? What's happening there?
Yeah, so a lot of our corner defense or corner preparation actually happens the week before, and we, scout what the team's going to do, what we expect from them, and then we determine what our defensive strategy will be leading up to it, kind of going off what we think they'll do. So everyone kind of knows their role already based on who's in, and I think, like whoever can fly or whoever can be what position. And then just, making sure everyone's in the right spot, making sure everyone's covered. And then as a goalie, there's certain things I have to think about on corners. If they're hitting it from the top, I can go down in a dive, because when you hit it, obviously you can't hit it high up in the air. It has to hit the backboard. So that's why we do what's called a stack, which is, or log. Sorry, I'm not remembering my goalie terms. It's been a while. It's called a log. So you lay down to try and block the straight shot. But if, there's some passing at the top or they're sweeping it, and there can be tips and rebounds is when you stay up in the air in case it goes up in the air. I think the first goal I did go down on a sweep, which Maddie would not be happy with me about that. But, in the moment you kind of decide what you should be doing, and you kind of go with your gut instinct. And I feel like the defense would say the same thing about going with your gut on corners and just trying to get in front of the ball no matter what.
Yeah, Taylor, what would you say as far, corner defense, playing that corner defense and then being on the offensive side of it? Talk to us about the mentality and what you're looking for as a midfielder.
Yeah, so on defensive corners, I played the role of fly, which definitely I'm going to look back on that. I feel like in 20 years and be like, wow, I cannot believe I did that, because it's definitely a scary position. But in the moment, I think that I'm so laser focused on just doing my best to get to the player as fast as I possibly can. And then with that, being smart, so not overrunning the ball, because then, the person on attack can really quickly force you to overcommit and just do a slight little pull. So you kind of have to be smart about, if you think, depending on what you think the player is going to do, which, like Haley said, we practice earlier in the week, you kind of have to base, breaking down your feet and playing really in that split second of a moment, which matters so much, because if you can get a little tip on the ball, then we can so quickly counterattack, which is a really powerful tool if you are able to do it, because you're man up, or you're a lot of numbers up. And so I think on defense, we really just try to get the ball out as fast as we can, get a touch on it, mess them up in some way. And then on offense, I stick stops, which is kind of the opposite of a fly. But in that position, I really just focused on trying to set my teammate up for success. So whatever I could do to just keep the ball in front of me, make sure I can stop the ball. And it's crazy because I really feel like I get this feeling right when I know that my teammate's going to score. Like before I even touch the ball, if I can set up a good touch so that I know that they are really good at this angle, it's a really cool feeling to know that you and your teammate are that synced up. So corners are fun. They're definitely a huge skill to have as a team, especially if you have really strong corners.
Inching closer to the end of the first half, but you brought a good point there, Taylor. You probably know you're getting really good on your corners, like you said, when you know where your teammate's supposed to be, when you're getting those it's almost kind of like you can read each other's minds, right? When you get to that point on those setup plays.
Yeah, I mean, I think we do have set plays, and so our coach will, tell us which play to do, but you got to be flexible in the moment because, the defense might be reading what you're going to do. And so it really is exactly what you said. feeding off of your teammates and knowing each other's strengths and knowing that if you just set each other up for success, then like you know where they're going to put the ball, so you know where you need to be. And if everyone fulfills their role, you have a really good chance of scoring, which is exciting.
Yeah, I was going to add, speaking of fulfilling your role, Mo just had a great defensive save, I think that was, as the post player. And that's one of those things where you just have to trust that everyone's there. And she was such a good post player. She had so many defensive saves that way. And that was a great example of, just keeping your composure and keeping your stick there. And she was able to save that goal. So that was awesome.
Yeah, it's really fun for me to watch this game. It brings back so many memories because I miss playing. I liked being the youngest person more than being the oldest. I miss you guys, playing with you guys.
Well, and Mo she was just such an awesome presence as the center back. She was so consistent and just this calming, like just such a good presence back there.
Yeah,
that was a great save too.
Yeah, I feel so lucky to have been able to play right in front of her because I had no idea what I was doing, and so she really helped guide me and keep me on track, which was super nice.
It is fun to watch. Obviously, Taylor, your freshman season, and now you were named team captain for what would have been the 2020 season. That had to be a great honor for you.
Yeah, I was really excited. I feel like Dartmouth field hockey has done so much for me. So any way that I can give back to the program and serve the team is just a big honor. And so I'm super excited. And although we haven't had a season, we have still been I'm fortunate to be able to be registered for on campus. So I've been able to still practice with the team. So although we haven't had a season, we've been trying to make the most of it, and still, at least I've been able to feel a little bit about what it would feel like to be a captain.
Yeah, and then again, you're going from as we watch here as a freshman to now that leadership role, Taylor. I mean, that's that's a role that's not just given to anyone. So that again had to be a great honor to get that to get that title. Even though, unfortunately, there was no season this year.
Yeah, I'm just super grateful to have had the opportunity, and I love motivating the team. So it's been really fulfilling so far.
And I believe we have come to the end of the first half as Columbia leads the Dartmouth Big Green 2-1. Of course, you're going to want to stick around because the ending is going to be quite fun as we continue here on Big Green Sports Classic from 2017, Dartmouth Field Hockey. We'll have more right after this.
Make your debit card green. Big Green. Select from 16 options by visiting any Ledyard Bank location or calling 888-746-4562. Ledyard's online and mobile banking includes free personal mobile check deposit, so you can show all your Dartmouth pride on your home turf. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
Growing your business isn't just one thing, it's a million little things. Should you lease, rent, or own? How fast can you get that part? Does it fit the budget? That's what your local CAT dealer is here for. With expert advice, flexible financing, and industry-leading equipment, you can get the job done, day after day. For a limited time at Milton CAT, get 0% for 60 months on select new CAT compact equipment.
As a trusted choice firm, the Richards Group has been committed to local communities for decades. We take the time to get to know our clients, their needs, and budget. We're independent, so we work for you, not an insurance company.
We use our expertise to find our clients the best home, auto, and business coverage at the most competitive price.
Our team provides consulting services for employee benefits, retirement plans, human resources, and leadership development.
The Richards Group. Prepare for tomorrow by contacting us today.
Welcome back, Big Green sports fans, as we return for the field hockey edition of Big Green Sports Classic from 2017, October 21st, 2017, as the Dartmouth Big Green hosting the Columbia Lions, as the Big Green heading into the halftime locker room, trailing Columbia 2-1. They were down 2-0 earlier, fought back, and have made it a one-goal difference. And we welcome back our guests. We welcome back from the class of 2019, Haley Valerio, who was the goalie in this contest that we are watching, and Taylor Hampman as well, who is the team captain of the Dartmouth Big Green field hockey squad, class of 2021, midfielder from Cherry Hills, Colorado. Both Taylor and Haley kind enough to join us here on Big Green Classic. So we've come out of the halftime locker room here, Taylor, and then Haley, you can jump in after. Do you remember what that halftime message was, what that feeling in the locker room was? Again, kind of a, after Columbia spent some time in that, in your half of the field for a good portion of that early of the half, started to balance out. And then again, you guys get a goal to kind of break that 2-0 stalemate there.
Yeah, I mean, I can't tell you that I remember exactly what we talked about, but I can imagine that, typically the coaches will let just us as a team talk things out. So usually that, can be like really small things that we notice, like, hey, this girl's coming on your right. Like, you got to be aware of her. We got to, be more aware of like spatial difference and stuff along those lines. But then, it can also be more bigger things where we're talking about the structure of the other team or just things that we need to be doing as a team to make sure that we can turn the game around. And then typically the coaches will come in and they'll have, some specific tactical things that we need to change. And then, but I would say that even when we're down, we definitely remain positive. I mean, there's every minute counts. And so it's not over until it's over. So I think at this point, we're totally in this game. It's 2-1. And I think, halftime is just meant for those little fixes and, things that we can't say on the field, and really just like to recharge and get ready to get back out there.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have much to add, but I think, it was just a chance for us to, regroup and keep our composure and, know that we could go out there, and it was a one-goal game. So I think that's probably what the discussion was about.
Taylor, looking back on this season, as we mentioned, you entering your freshman campaign, you participated in every game of that season. You finished up with 1 goal and 1 assist during your freshman year, but it seemed like you were thrown into the fire right away, playing a lot of action. We talked about that first game down in Delaware to open up the season, but to be a freshman and to get thrown right in there, I mean, that had to be that had to be a challenge, but something obviously you accepted right away.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, I was just so grateful to go to Dartmouth in the first place. So to be able to actually step on the field is like a dream come true. And I think I couldn't have been surrounded by more supportive teammates. Like I said earlier, defense. So I played defensive center mid, and I really couldn't have done it. Oh, looks like I'm not often in the. Oh wait, that's defense. I was thinking I was in the circle on offense. Anyways, but I mean, I really could not have done it without the support from defense in particular, and Haley as well. Because I mean, you can't hear the sounds right now, but I'm sure that Mo or Val or whoever was in there was helping to direct me as to where I was supposed to be, because I think so much of college, playing a position in college, especially a center mid position, is just understanding the game and the places where you're supposed to be. So I think, I think I just tried to do my best every single game, but I definitely couldn't have done it without the support of my teammates.
Did you know you were going to see action early on, Taylor, or was that something?
Oh, no.
No,
I knew that. I think Taylor did a great job in coming in right away, she was just so like willing to learn and communicate. She was a great communicator right off the bat, which is really hard when you're a freshman to know, what you should be saying, or even to know that you should be communicating as a freshman. And she came in right away in that center mid position and was just really awesome and consistent and just willing to like hear everybody. And so I knew she was going to get Penn.
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea. And I just like, I feel like I would have been grateful to like just be a part of the team. Because I think like even when you're on the sidelines, like it's just so fun to be a part of the program, and just like practicing against each other too is also really enjoyable. So yeah, it was a fun season. Definitely miss those times.
Haley, from your perspective, that season, the 2017 season, you finished with a 6-8 record, a 3.69 goals against average. So you saw a lot of time during that season. Was again, same question. Was that expected? Was there a battle in preseason for that, or did you know you were going to be the go-to when that season began?
So it was a really interesting year. The year before, we had another goalie come in who was a year under me, and she was great goalkeeper. She was really aggressive, and I was a little bit more reserved just because I was younger, and that's just my personality. But so we battled it out my sophomore year. We started, we would alternate who started, and she got more playing time, then I would get more playing time. And then with goalies, you never know. It's, whoever gels with the team. And I think that year we were trying to figure it out. And Emma, she ended up having an injury, and she stopped playing this year in 2017. So I didn't know what to expect going in. I, fully thought we were going to battle it out again. And I think playing it with her and having Maddie there, that just developed me so much. We pushed each other, and we were good friends too. And it was competitive, but it wasn't like, mean-spirited or anything like that. It was just, we pushed each other in practice every day, and she made me a bit more aggressive. And then, we kind of balanced each other out. And sometimes when she didn't need to be so aggressive, she would learn to be more reserved. So that was a really great learning experience my sophomore year and her freshman year. And we were both very young too at that point. And then I found out the first day of preseason that her injury, she couldn't play that year. So it was just me. I was by myself, and I was like, all right, here we go. We actually asked, there was a girl named Emily Wexler. Taylor, was she your trip leader?
Yeah, she was my first year trip leader.
She was Taylor's trip leader, and Taylor had been telling her, "Oh my gosh, we only have one goalie," and that's a really stressful situation to be in for the coaches, for the team, because if I get injured, we didn't have a goalie. So I think we put Jocelyn in pads one day, and we're like, try it out. So, and she was like, please no. But Taylor was talking to her trip leader about it, Emily Wexler, and she had played in high school. She did club, and I don't know if she did futures or anything like that, but she was like, sure, I'll come and try it out. And she was really great. She was really good. She actually ended up playing in a game.
Yeah.
I got a concussion from Penn, which two of my sisters went to Penn, so I was not happy about that. There was a big rivalry there. So yeah, she came in for a game against Yale, and she did a great job. I can't even imagine. She hadn't played in 4 years and, stepped in. But yeah, it was an interesting year. It was really fun. It definitely took the pressure off to be the only goalie, but then there was this other pressure of, if I get injured like I did, what would happen? So.
Yeah, we were super, super grateful to have Haley. We were like, don't injure Haley, whatever happens.
Haley, what made you want to be a goalie? I mean, what was that journey like? And when did you say, yeah, and I want to have people whip the ball at me, for 80 minutes? What was that? What was that deciding factor like?
Yeah, so like Taylor, I played soccer. I'm actually a triplet, so I have two sisters who are the same age as me. And we did everything together. We did sports and, dancing and everything like that together. And they did soccer. And for whatever reason, I just was a late bloomer when it came to sports. We did basketball, we did soccer, we did lacrosse, and we all played lacrosse together. And I didn't make the A team for soccer in club or in elementary school one year. And I was devastated. I was the only one out of my sisters to not make it. And I had played goalie in soccer actually because my sister did. And I was like, I'll try it. I'll try soccer goalie. And I really liked that. I had fun with being a soccer goalie. This was in elementary school. And I didn't make the A team, so I made the B team, but I had so much fun on the B team, so I always hold that against my sisters because I had more fun. And I ended up playing sport in college. So yeah, it came from being a soccer goalie. I didn't make the soccer team, so I decided to try something else. I definitely had a lot of heart when it came to sports, but I didn't make up for it in my skill of soccer. So I tried other sports, and field hockey was one of them. I had a club team that this mom organized in my area. It was just kind of a recreational thing. And she asked one day, she was like, "Hey, I know you played soccer goalie. Do you want to try it?" And I was in 5th grade, and my goalie pads were just whatever someone had in like their garage. It was just thrown together. I think I had lacrosse goalie gloves, which is not what you want to have. And I loved it. I had so much fun playing field hockey goalie, and then just, it took off from there. And, I was kind of the odd one out of me and my sisters to do field hockey, but I had a really fun time. It was always just with the greatest people, I always say, play field hockey, just such supportive teams. And I'd played on some competitive teams and the other sports I'd played in, but nothing was ever like field hockey. And just the coaches and the players are all just so supportive. And it's one of those sports where you just all have to rely on each other, and there's never a breakout star or like a LeBron James of the team or something. It's like you all have to just like rely on each other, and I think that just creates a really positive environment. So yeah, that's how I ended up playing goalie.
Taylor, you said earlier you were a late bloomer to the game of field hockey. Can you talk us through that process and how you eventually grew into the sport?
Yeah, so like Haley, I also played soccer, and I was so small growing up. Like, honestly, it was like, someone could break me so easily. And so soccer was tough for me. I had a lot of injuries. But kind of similar to the way I played field hockey, I'm pretty reckless, and that didn't work for me in soccer because a lot of the girls, were a lot stronger. So I broke both my arms and also had a concussion. And I think that kind of led me to think about if soccer was really in my future. And then my sister played field hockey, and like Haley, I had to do everything my sister did. And so I was like, well, I guess I'll play field hockey. And then I started playing, and I think that because of soccer, it was a pretty easy transition because it's the same positions and similar like running cuts and, passing sequences. And so, yeah, I just really enjoyed it. And then, played for high school, which was really fun. And then kind of started I did futures in Denver, and I had one coach come up to me after practice and encourage me and tell me that I should try out for nationals, which was like the National Futures Championship. And I had no idea what it was or really what he was talking about. But, I mentioned it to my parents and then looked into it a little bit, further. And I ended up deciding to try out, which was like a regional futures championship. And I think that was that was the first time I had seen field hockey at a competitive level, was at nationals. And I my first time ever stepping into a game was the regional futures tournament. So I just had really didn't know what I was doing. But I think that because I started so late, everything was so exciting to me, and it still is, honestly. Like, I'm still learning things that I never knew. And so I think the fact that I started so late helped me because, I never burned out, or I feel like now I never want to say bye to field hockey. So, so happy that I was introduced to the sport via my sister.
It's really funny how you guys talked about being, again, kind of joining the sport late, but you both had fantastic high school careers and certainly led you to playing Division I. I mean, did you have a feeling that you could play at that high level, Taylor? And then Haley, you can follow up. Did you ever think you could reach Division I? I mean, how did that all come about?
Honestly, it happened so fast. It looks like Maddie just fell. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, because I think it happened so fast. I think it was it was always a dream for me. I think that once I started going to the tournaments and understanding more about how recruiting works and how that would be a possibility, then I knew that it was something that I would absolutely love to do, and it would be like a dream for me. So I definitely don't think I ever expected it, but I think once I saw it in within reach, I definitely did everything I could to make sure that I would have the opportunity to play.
Haley, same thing. Yeah. When did you feel like you could play at this level, Division I?
Yeah, like Taylor said, I came into field hockey a little bit later, or I'd done it for fun. It was kind of my fun sport, I would call it. I did lacrosse competitively for a long time because that's huge in Philadelphia. And my freshman year of high school, I decided to just try out for futures. I didn't know what it was. I was at a summer camp, and they were like, hey, sign up for futures. And, I tried it, and I didn't have a goalie coach for most of my youth, so I didn't really know that much. Sorry, my internet is a little unstable right now. But and then my freshman year, I ended up making it to the regionals and then to the National Futures Championship. And then I had a really good tournament there. We won gold, which was so unexpected. And then I ended up making it to the junior national camp, which is where you try out for the U.S. teams. And I didn't even really know what that was at the time. And suddenly it was that summer of my freshman year. I was like, oh my gosh, I could actually play field hockey in college and do this. And that was a really eye-opening experience to go to the junior national camp with very little goalie training. But I think, just the other sports I had played, especially lacrosse, I was a defender. I think they just helped me with, my athleticism. And I don't know still to this day how I got that far, having no training, but it was definitely a wake-up call. I didn't end up making the national team. They picked 3 goalies, and I was the 4th. So I was really sad about that, but I was really grateful to have gotten that opportunity. And I think that was a turning point for me where I kind of realized that field hockey was in my future and that I could do it competitively. And being a goalie is really unique, and it's competitive, but also, school, there's not a lot of goalies out there. There was, it's a small community, and I actually did know the Columbia goalie in this game. She grew up in the town next to me. So wow. That's another fun fact. We actually went to the same Sunday school, and I met her, Katie Dempsey, who's in right now actually. But yeah, it's a small community of goalies. I feel like I knew every goalie in the Ivy League. But yeah, I ended up, it took off from there. I ended up, doing more club and recruiting, and I think futures was a great stepping stone there. And it kind of, transitioned from lacrosse to field hockey for me.
So we'll watch this corner here for Dartmouth. We are inching closer to the equalizer here as Columbia still leads 2-1, and the Big Green trying to make it back-to-back wins here. Of course, coming off a 4-3 win over UNH in the previous contest. So I'll let Taylor and Haley kind of walk us through here the next minute or so as Dartmouth tries to tie this thing up.
Yeah, that was a pretty good corner. We'll see what we're out of 25 right now. So it looks like we're transferring the ball, making good passes. Columbia looks like they're a little bit disorganized. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and it's just one of those times where you're knocking on the door and it's just like, come on, like, can we get it in there? And I think with that corner too, that was a close one.
Yeah, we really focused on our press this year. So you can see we have like the arrowhead shape. Our forwards, we're always working on that. But yeah, we'll see. There's Biko. I mean, Biko, if you watch her play, she just has so much energy. And I love watching her play. Her feet move so fast.
Yeah, and just her stick skill level is just so fun to watch. It's from her ice hockey background, I think.
So here's KP on the ball. Pretty ball. Oh,
that was a great run.
Yeah, I think it's Jocelyn on the ball. Oh, wow. I mean, that was just that was a quick transfer. So that was just really like finding each other in open space and putting the ball. It was a combination between Jocelyn's run, but then also just like knowing where to put the ball into that space was really impressive.
Yeah, that was just like a beautiful, run, and that's like the textbook thing you want to happen on your offensive movement. I don't know much about that, but as a goalie, that looks great from my end.
So we got a tie game now, 2 apiece here as the Big Green, again, they were down 2-0 at one point in this game. And I mentioned the UNH game prior to Haley. And, whenever Dartmouth gets together with UNH, that's always big. The 2 Division I colleges in the Granite State going at it. But that had to be a good momentum-building win leading up to this game. Do you remember much about that game against the Wildcats?
Yeah, I think it was it home or away? I feel like I remember them based on where they were.
That was at home. That was at Chase
home.
Field.
Yeah.
Yes.
I feel like, every year with UNH, it's always a battle. We practice against them in the spring and we scrimmage them, and we called it the state championship because
yes.
The 2 teams of New Hampshire. But that was always a battle, and that was a really good confidence booster, especially coming from the start that we had playing against Delaware and other teams. And we did have the Ryder win, and UNH, that was just a huge boost for us because that's a battle every year.
Yeah, Taylor, that UNH game, did you feel that was kind of, again, you played that game on that Wednesday, and then, get to stay in your friendly confines at Chase Field for Saturday. Columbia has to come to you. That had to be a nice momentum builder for this one against the Lions.
Oh, for sure. I think, like Haley was saying, UNH is always a competitive, fun game. And so I think having the 2 of these back-to-back is good because they're both intense. Also, Mo has such good block tackles.
Yeah, that was a great job by Mo.
She's just so steady and strong on the ball. And I think, she's a great center back. But anyways, I think the UNH game for sure gave us momentum, and it's great to have 2 high-level games back-to-back because sometimes when you, have a less competitive game and then you have an Ivy game, you kind of have to switch that mindset really quickly. So it was great to just have them back-to-back.
Is that something you prefer, Taylor? And Haley, you can jump in after, having, kind of scheduling that non-league game middle of the week instead of playing that one game and you have a lot of downtime in between. I mean, what's that like, mental-wise, preparation-wise, going from just one game a week traditionally when you're playing your league schedule? And do you like having that non-league till kind of sneaked in there, especially for this week, leading, as we're talking about Columbia, playing UNH beforehand?
I think, I don't know. I mean, I think we oftentimes had 2 games a week. And I think what's obviously tricky about it is that we have less time to prepare. So when we have 1 game a week, we were able to really spend the entire week preparing for that game. But I mean, our coaches did a good job of, if we did have 2 games, planning ahead and being like, okay, this day is going to be for Columbia, this day is going to be for UNH. And I think to some extent, having that 2 games in a week is, I mean, obviously more exciting because everyone loves games, but also sometimes I feel like if you have too much practice, you can overthink what the other team is going to do. And so, you know, when we're just able to play, I mean, that's where you learn the most, and that's where, you know, you're having the most fun. So here's Mo again on her tackles. There's Haley with the save.
I think I would add to playing a home game during the week was great. It was just exciting, and it kind of reminded me of high school when you would have, you know, games after school. So I think I loved having home games midweek. I think away games midweek were definitely a lot more challenging. I remember some trips to Holy Cross midweek that were very rainy, and I feel like that was just not ideal. I think we did end up winning, but when you want a midweek game, you want it to be home and, you know, the nice fall weather. But I did like the midweek games. I think my senior year we had a lot of Saturday, Sunday games, and that was pretty rough. I remember being exhausted we played UNH the Sunday after an Ivy game, I think, and I don't think we won that one. We were just so tired and, you know, all over the place. But I think spacing it out I preferred that over the course of the 4 years.
And just for a reference, after this game, you guys went down to Holy Cross for a Tuesday contest and came away with a 4-3 win down there in Worcester. So just for reference there. And Haley, kind of my follow-up, you know, what's a preparation like for a goalie leading up to a game? You know, you talked about having that back-to-back, you know, if you have that 2-week or that 2 games in a week, you know, what's that preparation like for you? So if you can walk us through, like, we'll just say leading up to a league game, what's that week like for you leading up to preparation?
Yeah, definitely. We started off watching film and, you know, getting used to what their offense is going to be like. And then I'm trying to remember. It's like, it's been so long. You know, with Maddie, it was great. She always had a plan of what we were going to do that week and how we were going to train based on what their offense was like. And we would do certain drills based on, you know, if they were really strong in corners. Like with Columbia, we would do a lot of corner practice just because that was where they got a lot of their goals in years past. And, you know, when you have a couple back-to-back games, you just gotta take a rest. And we did have some we would get massages through DP2, and that was great for me. I feel like if I got a massage after a game, that made a huge difference. And just focusing on recovery and eating right and stretching, and that's a big part of being goalie, stretching, just because you gotta dive all over and everything. So there was definitely some games where I'd be more sore just from getting some shots, you know, in the arm or something like that. But yeah, it's a lot of mental work too. I would have a lot of conversations with my coaches, one-on-one, you know, leading up to it or the night before games, just talking about, you know, the mental aspect. And that definitely is a big part of being a goalie.
Being a goalie too, you're kind of, is it almost like you're on your own little island, Haley? I mean, your own world. I mean, you know, I mean, you're part of the team, but you know, you're in, you know, it's just you. There's a lot of spotlight on you. Do you kind of get that feeling time and again?
Yeah, we used to, Paige, who was the goalie before me, we used to call it Goalie World, was the time that we would practice, sometimes for half the practice, just with the goalies. We would maybe have a forward come down and shoot on us, but usually it was me and Maddie for half a practice, and, you know, Paige when she was here, and Emma and Emily Wexler, we would just have our own little training session. And and then we would join practice later. But yeah, it's definitely interesting. I sometimes I wished I played field player just because it looked so fun, but I went to shoot. But it was fun. Being a goalie is a lot of fun. It's very challenging, but it was really a fun time, and I had a lot of great teammates to help me out. So,
Taylor, back to my first question with Haley there, as far as the week of preparation goes, as being, on the field as a midfielder, what is that preparation like, for those of us who don't get to see, behind the scenes there? What's that like for you personally?
So similar to Haley, we watch film as an entire team, and typically we would have, if we had a Saturday, Sunday game, we would have Mondays off. And so Tuesdays we would also review film from, looks like maybe I got a card or something.
Uh-oh.
Heading off the field. But yeah, so on Tuesdays we would kind of regroup, watch film from the game the weekend to, just have some points to make sure that we can improve on those things and then continue doing the things that we did well. And then I think big things that we focused on in the midfield were the press and specifically how the other team outlets. And then on the other side is our outlet. So what their press is like and how we can outlet the ball through that. And then, so after we watch video, we would have practice. And then also we had individual video sessions where I would go in with just one of the coaches, and she would kind of give me some key insights and things to focus on for the week so that I could make sure that I was on the right track to improving and could really prepare for the game. And then similar to Haley, the mental preparation is super important. I think especially when we knew we were playing a Princeton or, any Ivy or really any game at all. It was the little things that you had to do in order to make sure you were setting yourself up for success. So whether that means getting your work done at the beginning of the week so that you're not super stressed right before game time, or like eating healthy and making sure you're stretching, getting good sleep. I think all of those factors are super important in preparing for an event on the weekend.
Tell you actually just hit my next question. I was just going to ask both of you, what is life like as an Ivy League student athlete and balancing that academia and also being an athlete? What is that like for you right now, Taylor? Obviously things much different here in COVID-19, but what was that like for you? What's that journey been like for you?
I think when I think back to freshman year, I think I've definitely grown a lot in terms of learning how to prioritize my day and my week. But I think that it's really not a whole lot different than high school in the sense that you go to class and then you go to practice, you eat dinner, and you go to bed, or you do homework. And I think that it's very demanding. There's no question about that, but there's so much fulfillment out of it, and you really start to get in a routine and you learn what works for you and what doesn't. So for me, I really need sleep and I go to bed really early, which people on the team often mock me for. But I'm just one of those people where I know that after a certain hour, I don't do well doing work at that hour. And so, I would structure my time and my days around waking up early to make sure that I could get some work done so that I'm able to go to bed early so that I can have enough sleep. But I think, especially being a student athlete at Dartmouth, everyone is so supportive, athletes and non-athletes. And everyone wants you to succeed. And so there's so many resources that are within DP2 athletics that can help you if you're struggling with time management, or if you need some, extra tutoring. Pretty much on the team, we have pretty much everyone is involved in something different. So if you need help with a subject, there's probably someone who is an expert that can help you out. So I think it's definitely challenging, but so worth it and such a great experience.
Yeah, I would also add to that. I feel like I did, my best academic terms were when we were really busy with field hockey, just because I feel like I was, you have that structure and you have, the set times when you have to do things, and, you have practice till this time, so you have to budget your times. And I think I always did the best academically when I was in season, which I feel like, you are really busy, but it was definitely having the structure and just having the team to support you that was amazing. And, we would all go, sit in the library together and study, and just having that camaraderie was just like a great environment for support to balance all of that.
Of course, we're in a timeout right now. You saw on the scoreboard, 3 minutes, 30 seconds left to go here in the second half, 2-2 game. This has been a fun one to watch. Again, a very balanced game so far. Again, Dartmouth looking to complete the comeback. They were down 2-0 in this game, so certainly looking forward to the finish on this one. I do want to make sure I get this in before we continue along here, but more so for you, Haley, because Taylor, you're just about wrapping up your senior year at Dartmouth College, but life field hockey alum, what has that been like? That connection. I'm sure the alumni network very big and supportive in the field hockey program, but what is it like now that you're part of that alumni network?
Yeah, it's really awesome. We had, we reinvigorated the alumni network with the field hockey program a couple months ago. I'm losing track of time with quarantine, but it's a couple months ago. That was just so amazing to see all those alums, and some of them I had seen at homecoming and games and stuff like that, but some of them I had never met before, and just to have that shared experience of Dartmouth field hockey was just so awesome to see all those people and connect with current student, and then a former student. And then my boss actually is a former Dartmouth athlete. Governor Carney played football at Dartmouth, so that's really exciting. We're down here in Delaware, and he always talks about the Dartmouth experience and how great it was to be an athlete and a student at Dartmouth. So that's really awesome that we could have that shared experience and talk about that.
And Taylor, just from being a member of the program now, and what does that mean for the players who don the uniforms now, and then seeing those past players when they do come back to campus, or when you do interact? Well, what does that mean to you as a current student right now? And if everything plans well and you graduate on in this spring, you'll be an alum yourself.
Yeah, I always talk about how much of a family this community is, and I really believe that. This past season, when we were kind of at like a rut point where, we just needed some extra motivation, and we asked I reached out to a few alumni. Haley was one of them, and just was like, telling them where the team was at, and they actually all sent videos of just like short videos of them saying like either something funny or just like some words of encouragement for the current team. And I can't even tell you how impactful that was for us. And it definitely meant a lot to our season. And so I think that's just an example of how, this family, like everyone is so willing to help one another, and you're always a part of a program. Like I know Fowler always told us that being a part of Dartmouth field hockey is so much bigger than just being a player on a team. And I really have felt that. And it's nice to know that, even though I didn't have a season this year, that, I always am a part of Dartmouth field hockey, and we will always be connected in that way, which is just like a really cool and special feeling that I think is more unique to our program than other programs.
Winding down regulation here on Big Green Classic, and we're talking about alumni in Dartmouth, and Haley, I think you mentioned it. Your two sisters attended Penn, so that must have been a very interesting rivalry. As we're just gonna get right into overtime, and as we tied up at 2, so we'll begin the extra period here. But that must be an interesting, you got the sibling rivalry, Haley, but now you got like a legit Ivy League rivalry. What are the holidays like for that one?
I know, yeah. It's so funny. They didn't play field hockey, but and they would always come to my games wearing Dartmouth gear, which was awesome. Good. But, and Penn was always a battle. We always went into overtime, or it was a super close game with Penn, and those are always some of the best games to play them. And I always had a lot of family. My dad also went to Penn, so it's a very Penn family, and I always called myself the lone pine because it's only Dartmouth member. But and my whole family loved Dartmouth field hockey so much. They would have gone to Dartmouth in a heartbeat if they. No, I'm kidding, but they just loved the program. They loved the team, and just they would have always rooted for Dartmouth field hockey no matter what. But yeah, they were always so supportive.
I missed your parents, Haley.
No.
Taylor, was there a certain team that you felt that you had a rivalry against, whether it was you against a certain player in conference play, or was there a certain team you just loved beating or tried to beat? What was that? What was the team you enjoyed going out there and competing against?
Honestly, Columbia, because there were not many people from Colorado that ended up playing, Division I field hockey. I actually had one friend. She is a year younger than me, so she wasn't playing in this particular game, but I knew she was watching. And her and I played in Denver together, and she plays at Columbia now. And so I think that just gave me a little, extra competitiveness, because I knew the people at home, part of my club were watching, and so, Columbia was already a big rivalry, but that made it even more of a rivalry. So yeah.
Nice. There we see Haley sprawling all over the turf there, and I don't know. I think you finished. I have to check my stats here, but I think you officially finished with 10 saves. Might have been a little bit more in this one, but you were certainly. I imagine this was a game you were looking for a massage afterwards.
Yeah, I was probably.
Okay.
It's one of those where you're diving all around, and college is interesting. They. In high school, they would count shots differently, where I think it was just whoever did the book that day at my high school, but it was just some student who volunteered. But they would count it any time I touched the ball, so I would have like 25 saves in high school. And then I got to college, and it was like, you had 5 saves, because they counted as, it has to be a shot, on its way into the goal, and you have to stop it, basically. It was very specific with how they would count the shots. So, yeah, that was an interesting, I remember in high school, I was like, I had like 30 saves in high school. I only had 5, It was funny to come into that in college and be like, oh, that's interesting. But
the official stats had you with 13 saves.
Okay, yeah, that's a lot for college. Yeah, that's we definitely had some there. Columbia was definitely aggressive, so.
I
think Delaware. I would love to know what the Delaware one was, because that was a lot of shots.
Yeah, if I can bring them up quickly here, I can try and grab that. But this was the second overtime game, as we mentioned. You guys played in that ridiculously long Brown game, and this was the second overtime game and the final overtime game that you guys played in here as we continue. Here on Big Green Classic in overtime, 2-2. And Taylor, can you again? I know it's hard to kind of drift back to this moment, but the mentality into overtime. Is there a change in that? Do you think it's do you play a little bit more conservatively? Are you a little bit more aggressive? What is the overtime mentality for a player like yourself when you're in this situation?
I mean, I think that it's honestly a little bit of both to what you just said. So. You really got to know the times when you just want to possess the ball and slow the game down a little bit, because here I am. I just ran on. But I think, I mean, you got to know the times when to slow the game down, but then you also have to know when to go for it, because at the end of the day, it's sudden death. So whoever scores is who's going to win. So you have to take those opportunities, because if you don't, the other team will. So I think the mentality is just leave it all out on the field. Like, whatever you do, do your best, and that's all you can ask for. But I think that, with overtime, there is strategy to it, because you obviously have a lot less players on the field. So a lot more space. Fatigue starts to kick in, because it's a lot of running and a lot less people with a much bigger space. So I think just like being smart with what you do with the ball. I know we always say, let the ball do the work, because then you're not running as much. But Lenny just got a corner, and I think this might be.
Yeah, so here we go. I'm going to let Haley and Taylor take it over.
Yeah, overtime. We used to practice a lot of overtime, because we found ourselves in overtime quite a bit. I don't know if there's if it's normal for us to be in overtime that much, but yeah, it's like, you got to stay calm, but also you got to, you're trying to go as fast as you can, but also possess it. It's like this mix of emotions.
Yeah. And corners in overtime are a huge advantage, because you have they have less people in the goal. And so, you really just got to capitalize on these opportunities. So we'll see what we do here. Mo has a great hit. Evie with the sweep. Oh,
almost a goal, and then
not the goal.
As a goalie, that's like your worst nightmare, is to have another corner right after a corner, because you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, like no break.
Yeah.
But having a second corner gives us a little bit of motivation. We're like, okay, we can do this. So.
Oh, yeah. I love seeing everyone dive.
That was the best.
Lenny's face. I'm like all the way down at the other end of the field. Like,
I know, it's kind of crazy.
I probably come in like 10 minutes later. There you go.
I think that's Wex, too.
Yeah, that is. Yeah. I think she had just started at that point. Oh,
And there it is.
Yay.
And the Big Green, who were down 2-0 in that game, come away with a 3-2 win, avenging the prior season defeat down in New York City. And as we mentioned, that would be the second win of a 3-game win streak. Dartmouth would end up coming away with that 4-3 win at Holy Cross the game after. But certainly the one against Columbia will be the one that will be remembered that season. And Haley and Taylor, before we depart here, just kind of some final thoughts. Haley, we'll start with you as someone, again, a Dartmouth alum, and watching this game. What does it all mean to you? And and as a Dartmouth alum, what does this moment mean for you in watching this game?
Yeah, I think I just get so nostalgic when I watch games like that. I think this is just a great example of just Dartmouth field hockey at its best. We came from behind, and we really persevered, and you just remember the team, and like that moment afterwards is what you remember the most. And regardless of the outcome, I think just having the team there and having this group of people is just such a great experience. And when you win a game like this, it goes to show your hard work pays off. And that was one of the highs. That was like a great moment that you look back on. And I'm just so grateful for the time I got to play Dartmouth field hockey, and it's taught me some great life lessons. And just really grateful for the opportunity to rewatch this game. So thank you.
Taylor, we should mention 2019, you were named All Ivy League honorable mention. As you mentioned, this year you were named a captain. Unfortunately, did not have a season. But as you go in and finishing up your Dartmouth tenure here, what is these 4 years meant to you, and especially these last 6 months with everything that's kind of gone on here in COVID-19? Has that kind of put it into perspective for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think words can't even explain how much this program has done for me. And I know Coach Fowler used to say this to us, but she always said, like, you don't remember the wins and losses. I mean, in this particular game, of course, we remember that we beat Columbia, but it really is, you remember the moments and how you feel in those moments. And I think, like in this game, I don't remember the goal. I just remember how I felt after the goal. And I think, being a part of this program has taught me so much about life, taught me so much about how to be a good person. And I truly don't think I could have surrounded myself with more inspiring people. I think that, this team has such special people. And so, so grateful to have had the opportunity to play. And I think, as disappointed as I was about this season, I think I'm just grateful that I've had the past 3 seasons, and that, putting everything into perspective, I think just makes you value the little things so much more. So, I mean, for me now, it's like, if we get to go out and practice for an hour, that's like a huge win for the day. So I think, as much as I would love to be in a full-on game right now, I think celebrating the little things are what really gets us through right now. So yeah, I mean, rewatching this brings back so many good memories, and will forever cherish the memories that I've had with the program, and hopefully we'll be able to create more memories with the Dartmouth field hockey family. So thank you for having us and for letting us watch this, because it was a very enjoyable way to end the night.
Well, I couldn't have had 2 better guests here to join us on Big Green Classic. Haley Valerio, class of 2019, and Taylor Hampman, class of 2021, for joining us here on Big Green Classic. Thank you both so much. Stay healthy and stay safe. Thanks again.
Thank you.
And that's going to do it for us on this edition of Big Green Classic. Thank you to Ben Myers. I'm Brett Franklin saying so long. We'll talk to you next week on another edition of Big Green Classic. Have a great night, everybody.